So thank you for coming, man,
Yeah.
and for letting me do this here at the new place. This place is awesome, man.
Yeah, thank you.
And it's been exciting just to see your business grow and because coffee grow. And as I've been thinking about doing this show, man, there's not a better person that I think I would want, as my first guest.
Appreciate it, man.
It's actually fitting because when I opened my business 5 years ago around here, you were one of the first people I met. And the show is called Connections. And you were one of the people that really inspired me to be the connector that I am. A lot of people have helped me along that journey. And just by seeing you live out your life and just seeing you in the day-to-day, struggling with stuff, whether it's like deadlines, whatever it is. And then all of the positive things. You've had this constant, there's a lot of constants about you that I think a lot of people can learn from. And so the point of this show is to bring out the things in people that I'm inspired by or doing right by others, or at least just trying to do right by others.
Yeah,
Those are the people that are going to be on this show. And the whole goal with that is for somebody, at least one person, to listen to these episodes and be inspired by what's talked about, and it maybe could improve their life somehow. I'm not a self-help person or a doctor or a psychiatrist. There's great people for that. What I believe in is connections. And that's kind of the reason I'm bringing you on. So I want to start off with an intro over you, and then we'll really get into the major stuff. So this is just kind of a brief overview that I'll read over. So Doug Cole. Doug's a lover of life. He's a passionate connector and business owner. He's a husband, father, and a follower of Christ. Doug has a passion for connecting others and making the daily effort to genuinely be someone who tries to love God and love people the best that he can. Doug has been a part of opening multiple high-quality craft coffee shops and roasteries in Georgia and Florida, and he looks forward to spending more time with the people that he loves and as his businesses grow and thrive. So I guess that's you in a kind of a nutshell.
Yeah, man, you make it sound good. Thank you.
Well, hey, man, this is, that only scratches the surface. So we talked a lot about, in doing this show, beginning, what we're going to talk about, intro, stuff like that. And it's funny that you bring it up, like you're a connector. So what do you mean when you say you're a connector? Like what drives that behind you? How did you become that way?
I don't know how I got necessarily geared like that. I think that's something that maybe I'm just a little wired to be. I like seeing people connect when I think you've got maybe a skill set or a background, a personality, that just would complement somebody else. I've got to get you together with you. And it was neat because I've got two friends. You probably Paul Judy and Andrew Cole, either of them?
Yeah, knew both of those guys.
Right.
Yeah.
Great guys. And they connected here in the coffee shop. And I knew both of them separately. Both of them massive coffee geeks. Both of them big, lovers of people and just like to do good. And their worlds didn't cross. And they were in the shop at the same time one day. And it's like, you need to meet you. And we made that happen. And they've been, good, solid friends. You don't even have to leave that in the thing. But like, all I've got to say in there is I've got two good friends that, connected in the shop, and I was just talking about that, reminiscing about that, a day or two ago. I think Monday this week, I saw one of them in here in the shop, and it was cool. And those are just, I'm not sure why I like it so much, but I just do.
Yeah, just kind of made you that way.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something I've picked up on. I mean, I've made so many connections just through you, and you have a way of connecting folks that it's almost like there sometimes can be some abrasiveness on like a connection, because it's like, oh, well, you should meet my buddy, and they're like, oh, well, I'm not sure if my buddy is going to want to talk to them, or and sometimes connections can be a little weird, like, well, let me reach out to them first and see if it's okay, but it's never seemed forced like here, with you and with, people I've come in contact. It's like, hey, I automatically know this dude's a good dude and he's going to love to talk to you. I went ahead and already sent the text. I already sent the email. So how would you encourage somebody who knows they want to be better at networking, or, maybe they just want to know more people? What would you say to the people that are like, oh, it's awkward to network. It's weird to like get that guy's number and hook him up with another person. How do you push through that?
If you want to make people's lives better, hook them up. Like, that's as simple as it comes down for me. I genuinely want people's lives to be better, and I think we're all better when we get connected. So, I mean, I love the name of the podcast, Connections. So, I really think that. So, if you just, think about the motivation, it's like, I want your life to be better. This person can help your life be better. So then it's not weird and awkward and forced, and it's not me trying to make a sale or trying to help my buddy make a sale. I'm providing a resource and somebody who genuinely can help you in life. Well, maybe will be a good friend, could play in your band, can put a roof on your house, can watch your dog, like whatever, it doesn't matter. And so as far as a couple of tips on that, realize why you're doing it. You're doing it to make people's lives better. Don't just dump off the connection. Don't just say, hey, I've got somebody you need to reach out to. Text them. Like, hey, Joe, you got to meet my buddy Aaron. Here you go. I think you guys are going to be great. Joe, Aaron kills it for me in this, man. Just thought might be a good connection, and tell him why. Introduce him yourself. Tell him why you're getting them together. Sometimes it might happen immediately. Sometimes you might wait a while to do it. I don't know. Just like go with it.
Right. So what I pull out of that is it starts with a heart posture, really. Mm-hmm. It's of, I want to make your life better, and I think this person can do it.
Yeah.
So I want to dig more into that. So how did you become that way? Some people, it's like they never can fully get there, as far as, not saying that you think you're fully there, that you come off that way. Just what I've noticed. Mm-hmm. It's that beginning of, I'm coming at it, from the angle of I'm trying to help you, and generally I care about your well-being, more than mine. That's kind of what that speaks to me. It's because that's a reason I think sometimes, networking and connecting and stuff like that can feel a little grimy, because if it starts with I'm trying to get something out of this,
right,
that's immediately picked up on, mm-hmm. I would say. Mm-hmm. But the interesting thing is most people kind of do things that way, but you don't. So I want to learn more and just dig into that and kind of where that came from. So I'd love to learn more about your childhood. Where'd you grow up? What, how'd you get here? We kind of went, into things that are going right now, what you're doing, but I want to go backtrack a little bit, see if we can pull some of that out of where you grew up.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe, maybe that does have a lot of why I like to stay connected. This is state number 8 for me. So
okay.
I grew up living all over the place. People are like, where you from? Like, pick a state. I laughingly, Ty and Catherine, when they were working back in the shop, they would laugh their heads off. I didn't know it. But one day I finally found out how much they thought it was funny when I dropped the reference of being a culture vulture. I'm like, yeah, I can just blend in wherever. I grew up going to school in the inner city of Richmond, Virginia, and I saw people shot broad daylight, balling
really?
it up with guys at the park, on lunch breaks, and they're high as a kite. We're just playing some basketball with some dudes. I'm not high, but. And then I went to school out in the country and got punched in the head one time because I was, from another part of the country. And, it's like, just whatever. It was.
Welcome to our city.
Yeah. No, that one was out in the country, man. It's like, I wasn't from there. And, it was 5th grade, man. That's how it rolls. But, I was from all over the place. So, give you the rundown: Indiana, Maryland, Delaware, Virginia, Pennsylvania, Tennessee. I'm not sure if I said Ohio, and then Georgia. Moved around a lot, stayed connected with key people throughout all the states. I was just texting a buddy last night about a pretty major event in his life. I'm going to have a coffee in remembrance of his wife this morning. And, I've known Danny 22 years. He was a college professor of mine, and then became a friend, in some dear ways. I've got friends I stay connected with in Ohio and Indiana, Chicago, Pennsylvania, Maryland, all that stuff. I just hiked Mount LeConte with a buddy of mine. That's up in like Asheville, Sevierville area, and just hiked that with him back in October on 9/11. And I've known Paul since I was 4. Wow. So we were in each other's weddings. he flew out. Him and his wife flew out for a pretty significant a tragedy in our family when I was living out near Chicago, and that was 12 years ago. It's like we just keep up. So I think moving around a lot played a lot into that because home has never really been much of a place for me. I've not been attached to houses or places, but people. People are home.
People are home.
Yeah. So in essence, like if you think of it like that, it can be more sad when home moves away. People or friends when you just it's part of life, but they leave, they move. That's more sad to me than leaving a house.
Really?
So yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
'cause the
that's
house is just a place,
It's just a place. Different people see it different ways, and that's fine. If you get real attached to a place in a house, that's fine. But that's just not me.
Yeah. So did you have somebody that you looked up to? Was it like your parents, or who inspired you to, did someone inspire you to live a connected life, or have you always gravitated towards people or home, or did somebody instill that in you?
I don't know. I didn't think about it much as a kid. And my parents had obviously a major impact on me. The biggest impact on my life.
Yeah.
Jesus was a pretty big connector.
Yeah.
He went connecting people, and always went out of his way to walk through the crowds and through the people. That always slowed things down and made there were always side quests, so to speak. I don't think there are side quests necessarily for him, but if we're looking at it, thinking if you're supposed to get from here to here, let's go the fastest route. And so that's not always the best route. As far as people go, I think I started learning more of connecting people just kind of somewhere probably in my 20s. I was in college and then doing a lot of student ministry type of stuff, serving and taking care of a lot of teenagers, got into youth ministry, and working with some of my friends doing that, and realized that somebody's good at this and somebody's good at this. Let's get them together. College students were like that as I served a lot of students, and then getting into business. Really, I probably made me more aware of that. I would say so.
Yeah.
Because you start to meet a lot of people,
Right.
and you realize, man, this isn't going to help me directly right now, but these guys, this could help them. So
Right.
let's get you and you together. Paul, Paul Ragor, he's
Yeah.
Friend and business partner. One of the best people that I know. He's had a significant, like more of brought a lot of awareness to that idea in my mind. Put me onto a really good book about it. So called I think it was the opening playbook. That's not the name of it. I'll get it to you.
Yeah.
Fantastic book, and ironically, it was about it was one of those fictional stories, like a fictional business fable.
Right.
Kind of like a Patrick Lencioni book, but really, really good book. The main character owned a coffee shop, though, ironically. So
Well, that's somewhat applicable.
yeah.
I guess really applicable.
He said that Paul just enjoys making connections for the sake of making connections, whether or not they seemingly benefit you.
Right.
So, and I saw the power in that because I looked back, I was like, oh, I guess I've been doing that. I could be a little bit more intentional about that. So Paul helped me probably be a little bit more acutely intentional about that. But I
Right.
think just growing up the way I did probably had a pretty big impact on it.
So do you feel like moving place to place, did that ever produce do you feel like any of it could have been, almost, maybe a defense mechanism of like, oh, well, I can't get attached to that place, so I got to get as connected as soon as I can so I can feel like home again? Or was it, I'm just trying to draw that connection between, because I lived a different life. I've moved twice in my life.
Right.
My wife cannot pull me out of my house. I am attached to the house.
Right. That's
You
fine.
know?
I think it's great.
So, but I'm also a connector in different ways. So for you, I'd love to know more about a lot of people really struggle with that, moving around a bunch of times. It seemed to have made you thrive. Do you feel like, did it start out as, oh, we're moving, this is the second or third time I've moved, and all right, I'm kind of getting used to it? Or from the get-go, was it always just kind of
I never liked it.
second nature? You never liked it?
No. That's why I stay connected to friends. So I never liked moving. It was never fun. Moving itself is a pain in the butt. But, moving from place, leaving your friends, and there were times where we moved and then came back, and you're like, yes, and you get back and it ain't the same.
Yeah, everything's changed. People have kind of moved
You're on the
on.
outs. It takes a while to bust that back in.
Yep.
And then we move again a couple years later. So no, I didn't like it. It definitely, looking back, it made me flexible. And that's one of my, I'm a pretty flexible person, and to a detriment sometimes. That's not always a good thing. But it did make me want to stay connected. The people that were just good for me. Obviously, I've reached back out. As a teenager, got my driver's license at 16. I would drive a couple hours to go meet my friend's family at one of his travel ball tournaments because it was it was like 2 hours away instead of 7 hours away. My parents were like, yeah, you can drive your 74 Nova 2 hours away. Don't need to drive it, 6 or 7 hours away yet, but go drive to Newport News, and that was cool.
Yeah.
So that, I think it's just because I enjoyed staying connected with the people.
Right.
And so, back in the day, man, we'd write letters, emails, phone call. There was no texting, no social media. I never did get into chat rooms and all that stuff. I didn't even know what it was,
Right.
So I think it's just because I wanted to stay connected to people who meant something to me.
Right. So what type of stuff did you get into after high school? So you talked about student ministry. Was that the beginning of your professional life? Getting a student ministry? Tell me more about that.
Yeah. So I didn't know what I exactly wanted to do. It was funny because I had said for a long time my dad's a pastor, and that's when we moved up there to Pennsylvania. It was the last move that I made as like living at home. We moved up there, started a church, and my dad's been pastoring there for 23 years.
He's still in Pennsylvania?
Yep, still up there in PA, just like right in the snow belt. So we got up there, and I went back and forth like, oh, I want to go into some type of church work, pastoring, and then I got the itch for like, man, I think I want to be in some type of business. I want to work in business. Didn't know. I ended up going to seminary and Bible college, and got a degree in theology, and so in doing that, it was a very real practical education, and so I didn't learn the books as much. It was good. It was definitely learned some Bible, but learned a lot of practical things, and that really stretched the muscle for loving people, and gave a lot. Worked. I was working a lot, going to school a lot, and serving a lot. All of it. It was all volunteer, but stayed really busy and learned how to give myself away. And as an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-old, 21-year-old, like that's really big, to get outside of yourself. I gave a lot of my time and gave a lot of my money. Didn't have much, but it's like pay my school bill, have a little bit of food, and then I'm using this to help people and whatever else I had. And that's just kind of how I learned, and it made a big impact on me. So I went to school for pastoral theology. Ended up working there at that college for I think it was just about 10 years, and spent those 10 years serving the students. I was in a lot of student life stuff. And
At the college, so you worked at the actual college system. Okay.
Yep. So student life was most of what I did. I did some other things too, oversaw some areas and enjoyed it. But the part that I loved the most was the student life. And so, like even as a student staff member, I was in the dorms every night saying goodnight to the guys, just saying what's up, And so I got to know, like I could still probably tell you room numbers where some of these guys were. But I could tell you room numbers. I could tell you where the guys were, what bunks they were in, where they worked, where they were from, what ministries they were involved with. Like I could do that for the entire freshman dorm, 3 floors. So,
Wow.
And it just meant, see, people meant a lot. So all of that cultivated, I think, a lot in me in that way.
So did you gravitate to, because ministry work, I've had very minimal. I've always served in my churches and stuff, but as far as actual ministry work goes, I've had very limited experience with that, on the vocational level. But I would imagine that, getting into something like that, kind of, again, if you're already a connector, it's only going to enhance that. But is that like what kind of kick-started and helped you find your groove of like, I'm Doug Cole, this is who I am, this is what I do? Would you say that was the defining period? I mean, you talk about
Yeah.
knowing all their dorm numbers, knowing where the freshmen, that tells me that, you were all in, locked into it.
Knowing their names.
Were you able to do that
Yeah.
beforehand, with your prior relationships, or did this just make you better at that?
That helped me get a focus on it all. I realized how much I loved getting to know people's names, getting to know them as people, and realizing it didn't matter if they were the students that were well known, and their dad was they came from a more prominent church or pastor, or if it was the only kid from that part of the country, nobody knew him. Like, I'm not going to treat you any better or worse because of who you are. I'm not going to treat you any better or worse because of who you're not. I enjoyed like leveling the playing field.
Right.
I loved it. Like, yeah, I'm gonna get to know you just like I get to know that guy. And as a student, doing the student ministry or reaching out and working with a lot of the youth and stuff like that, I thought it was really important to get to know people's names everywhere I went. And so I think that's where a lot of that started. Getting to know people's names started as an 18-year-old. I don't think I really thought about it much before then. Probably not.
Yeah.
But I didn't have that opportunity. So jumping in, getting to know a lot of people's names, just in the neighborhoods that we were working with, and help, a lot of areas that just needed some help. We were providing some things for the kids and the families that needed some things. So that helped to form my mindset there. And then walking through the dorms every night, then traveling around the country, visiting families who were looking to do the same thing, and help them and guide them. It was neat. It was cool. And then eventually, working with the church, moving on from the college to working more with it in a church. That's what took us to Ohio from 2014 to 2018 till we moved down here. It was a blast, but it hit me. I was just like, I hated, it doesn't matter how big or small, you're going to forget people's names, And I hated the idea of walking up to somebody on a Sunday and be like, hey, brother. Like, that just grated against me.
Yeah.
It's not what I'm not. No. And if I forget your name, I just own it. Like, man, I know we talked last week. I know you've been here like 3 or 4 times now, right? Yeah. Can you remind me your name? Because I totally forgot.
Right.
And just own it.
I struggle with that one, man. Because
You
I
just
want
gotta own it.
I don't want people to think I forgot about them.
No, the problem is they can tell.
Yeah.
When you don't say it, they know. Like, oh, he doesn't know my name. I'm just a brother. I'm just a hey man. I'm just a dude.
What up,
It's like,
old
what's
son?
up? Yeah. And I try to own it as best I can. This morning I had somebody, and I forgot, and I didn't own up to it. I was coming in here for the podcast to talk, so I didn't. I thought, you know what, I'm not gonna do that right now. But most of the time I'll try to own it, but it bothers me if I don't.
Right.
And I'm gonna forget. You're gonna forget.
Right.
So, but asking people don't care, man. I've had to ask people sometimes. It's been like 10 times. Sometimes you get the wrong name locked in your head.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, I think it's Kurt, and then eventually gets to where it's like, okay, I know it's not Kurt, but I don't know his name, so I'm just gonna be like, okay, I know it's not Kurt, give it to me again.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it
Yeah.
says a lot about who you are just from that level too, man, because, everyone we want to be loved and liked, but we also have to be real, and I feel like there's a huge disconnect, especially in our society. I mean, we could spin off a whole other show on this. Is like, there's perception, and then there's what is, right?
Reality, yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna pretend like I know who you are, or what your name is, but like, what's real is, nah, I really don't. And the
Right.
perspective, and this can go down to anything. Think you're one way or try to be one way, but then there's the root of who you are.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, man, there's a whole lot of depth to that, because I feel like true self is where people benefit from most, like knowing the true self, because if it's just a surface level, like something we've manufactured to look a certain way, a lot of times you can get into trouble with that.
Oh man, that was something that I learned. One of my favorite words is integrity, and it has its root in the word integer, which is the whole number. It means it's whole, it's complete. Doesn't mean it's perfect. Doesn't mean you never screw up, but it means that it's like, doesn't matter which way you turn it. It's consistent.
Right.
I'm not worried about being perfect because I know that's already off the board. But if I can be consistent, if you can see me in this setting, and I'm this way, and you see me in this setting, and I'm the same way, good. I'm happy about that. So like when I used to do a lot of the work in the dorms and stuff like that, it bothered me if I was supposed to be checking on certain things, like, okay, guys, we got to make sure everything's in a certain state here in the dorms. They don't want it to be in a pigsty.
Right.
We want things being good and healthy and strong. Like, let's teach you how to do that.
Oh, you'd have known my room number for sure.
And trust me, I didn't keep my room perfect, but if I worked, that was my motivation. It's not like I'm a neat freak. I go up and down with keeping stuff straight, and like I need to detail my truck like nobody's business right now. But I knew that if I was checking on people's rooms, like I need to let guys into my room. They need to see. Like it would grieve my soul, to know that I'm like, all right, guys, you need to have your stuff together, and nobody can look inside my room because it's blown apart.
Right.
Like that goes all the way back to being 18, 20 years old.
Right.
Just not perfection, but like I want to be able to be real.
Right.
I want to at least know that I'm trying, so I can be real with you.
Right.
So
moving on from so you went from the university working in, and it was a Christian university, so you student life, then to church, like an actual church role. What did you do? Were you a pastor, youth pastor?
Yeah, so some of it involved some education. I did teach for a little bit. Had a good time with the teenagers. It was a lot of fun. And more of like the actual job description, if you want to say it, was the administrative type of role, just kind of running the operational things day to day of the church, making sure that our things were well organized, that all the volunteers had what they needed, everything was set up well, so they could just come in and love some kids. They didn't have to worry about making sure the place is vacuumed and snacks and curriculum, and come in and love the kids and take care of them. That was the bulk of it, making sure. I also volunteered, leading some small group for some adults, and some people around my age, a little bit older, a little bit younger, but that younger family, younger adult area, had Bible studies where I would meet people that God would just kind of bring into my life randomly. So I'd like, okay, let's catch up and get some coffee. Surprise.
Right.
So it's neat. Three of my hobbies were guitars, coffee, and basketball, and I wasn't really great at any of them. I was never going to make a living playing guitar or playing basketball, so I'm like, I'll try doing some coffee.
Yeah.
And the God would bring people into my life who liked coffee or guitars or basketball, and just kind of use those things to get connected with people and see how God would use that in our lives.
Yeah. So did coffee enter your life? I mean, coffee's been around obviously for a really long time, but as far as your focus and like, maybe I really love this. I like connecting with people over this. I might want to do something about this. I mean, I remember the popcorn maker story.
Yeah,
so we'll get into that.
Sitting right up there.
Is it up there?
Yeah, it's up there.
Oh, I gotta bring it down.
Yeah.
For the purpose.
It's way up there. Can you reach that guy?
We're gonna try.
It's got a loose part on top. Don't let it hit you.
I don't want this to be
Woo! It'll work. It's been through a lot worse.
Dude.
See?
We're gonna unedit that.
No, leave it in there.
Keeping it raw. So yeah, talk about degrading a story into something incredibly.
That's
Dude,
great.
That thing is durable.
I told you, it's from the 80s.
So tell us about this contraption here.
Yeah, it's a little popcorn popper. So, I didn't start doing anything like this until Ohio. I was into coffee as a coffee geek. Found out about coffee in Indiana at Grindhouse Cafe in Griffith, Indiana, in the 219. Love that place. I do. And that's where I got into coffee. I started taking people there, and I took a whole busload of my students over there, a couple times. Just like, all right, y'all, get some coffee. Let's have some fun. I didn't start roasting, though, until I got into Ohio. Just wanted to make a little side hustle. I had a business on the side back in Indiana, and you got to do that when you're doing church work a lot of times. And so wanted to make some extra money, and said, let me just try roasting some coffee. So I got this guy at a rummage sale. It's like, well, this tastes pretty decent. Actually, I'm making better coffee than I get at the grocery store. And so I'm going to try it. So I got a little 3-pound roaster, and bought that. And I started roasting and going to farmers markets and trying to get a few wholesale accounts and selling a little bit online, and that worked out well. So eventually I partnered up with who I didn't there were no plans of anything further, but I as far as like with Eddie or anybody down here, but I partnered up with a mutual connection in Ohio and got my roaster inside of her coffee shop, and so it allowed me to do more
Really?
things. Yeah, and that turned out it was Eddie's aunt, and so
Okay.
I started doing that. Then I started going out on her behalf to farmers markets and selling coffee for them, and then selling coffee for me, and so that's where I started developing more as a roaster. But it started
It
with this
all
little guy.
started with this. So you would roast the beans in this.
Yeah.
Now, you've told me the story before,
Yeah, just go right inside of here, and it just spins it around.
and that's you're putting
Here.
the green coffee in
Right
there.
here, just kind of.
Oh, dude.
It'll heat it up. And so, just like it does.
Did you have to stir, like keep it going?
If you put you put anything, close to 4 ounces, you gotta. That's gonna be loud in the microphones.
That is awesome.
But yeah, you gotta stir it a little bit to get it going. But then it starts to lose some moisture. It starts to spin around all on its own. And after about 6 minutes, you've got some coffee roasted.
dude,
The West Bend Pottery too.
West Bend, if you're watching this video, or if you ever see this just fell from about 8 feet, and it's still rocking, not a scratch on it. So
Nah.
sorry about that.
No, man, this thing is. I love it. Gives it one more little bit of. It gives it a little bit more aura to it.
Dude, yeah, man. That is awesome. So this was in Ohio. Were you still working in the church when you're like messing around with the coffee stuff, took an interest in it, and just kind of doing that on the side? Like, talk me through the transition of like moving fully from that into, this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah. So, because here's the deal. I started doing that to make a little bit extra money, and some things were at the same time kind of changing, and I did want to put some more into it. I had the freedom to be able to put more into it, but I realized that I really at that point I wanted to be able to do a little bit more for my family, and there's only so much that I was going to be able to do, and so where I was going to be able to go, and I love the church that we're a part of, so we just stayed a part of that church. Stayed active. I was, still leading the group. My wife is working with music and still teaching in their school, things like that. But I just stepped out, said, okay, I think it's time for, I just maybe make a pivot. Things I wanted to pursue the coffee side of it, wasn't ready to jump out in that full time by any means. So, but I took a job outside the church, and, that was the first time in my adult career that I had done that. So, and it was new, it was interesting. Still kept pushing away at coffee and stayed active, like I said, volunteering, helping in that church. I mean, good relationship with everybody. So it wasn't anything bad. It just something had to change
Yeah.
for us personally.
Was that difficult to leave a church profession and talk me through your mindset there?
Yes, it was, and it wasn't. The reason why is because I look at life. Life itself is sacred. It's not a job. It's not a title. And the things that I was doing there that meant the most to me, that I was always going to do, I wasn't getting paid for it. I wasn't getting paid to, invest in anybody and, disciple or mentor or teach. I wasn't getting paid for that. That's just what I did.
Right.
I wasn't meeting people at coffee shops and taking somebody out for a bite to eat here, or meeting somebody to jam on some guitar and kind of talk some Bible and go play some hoops with them and hang with them afterwards. And no, I wasn't getting paid for any of that. So I was going to do that whether I was getting, making in a career working at a church, kind of keeping things running, or I was going to do it if I had a 9 to 5 at some office job, or if I was out painting, or if I was running a coffee shop or whatever. Like, it didn't matter. So it wasn't, by that point, it didn't really matter.
Right.
I was already going to do the important work regardless, because that's what I'm supposed to do. That's what I want to do. It's in my heart.
That's it's cool to hear that, because Caleb, who is the marketing officer here, he also is my assistant, helps me out. Caleb is incredible.
Oh man, rock star.
He actually got me a book, Garden City, and it's by John Mark Comer.
Yeah,
Speaks directly to what you just talked about.
really. I haven't read it yet, but I've heard of it.
So I just got through the section where it's basically talking about aligning your life to where, like, Jesus didn't say, hey, I've got church hat on, And then I've got go play basketball and roast coffee hat. It was Jesus was Jesus, right? And it's like, yeah, man, there's no such thing as secular with me. Our world has created spiritual and secular. We've got our secular music, and then you've got our Christian music, and we have our days where we do secular stuff, and we have our Sundays. So you just spoke directly to that.
Yeah. I mean, there's good and evil in this world. There's things that hurt you and things that help you.
Right.
But yeah.
But you talked about that alignment.
Yeah.
Like, okay, because I worked in the church too, and early on my thinking was like, I'm supposed to be in ministry, and that means I have to take a job where a church pays me, and all I do is work within that church system, and that's ministry. But it sounds like you found an alignment where it's like, well, this is all ministry. So how would you encourage somebody to think that way? And what's the reality behind what you're at? I mean, because in reality, that's kind of how we, in my opinion, at least from, my own Bible research, kind of how we're called to do it. The Bible doesn't call us to, structure when we're secular and when we're spiritual. And we often can do that, like in our modern day with our profession, like, oh, well, I don't work in the church. I'm a painter, man. So like, I'm not really, doing the Lord's work. It's like, well, no, you could be. So like, how do you think about that alignment, and how would you encourage somebody to, that's trying to get there? How would you encourage them?
Man, when I was like when my vocation was working in a church, I was working on a computer. I was fixing things on the property. I was getting things from the store. I was making sure utilities got paid and hooked up and transferred, and new equipment got in and out, and we, training. And what's different there than it is working in an office or at a school or running your business? Like, there's no difference in the tasks that you're doing. It was the motivation. My motivation was to honor God with my life. My motivation is still to honor God with my life. So it didn't matter. And I figured somebody else might be better fit to make sure that those things happened. Those boxes were checked. Those buttons were pushed for the church there that I was working with, and let somebody else do that, give them an opportunity to do as good or a better job than I was doing. And I'll take what I can do and try to maybe leverage it to do a little bit more, for my family, and still do what I'm doing for the glory of God. Still try to love people, still try to love God with my life. Like, I came to the point where I realized it's all like I'm supposed to do what I'm supposed to do what I do for a higher reason anyways. It doesn't matter what it is. There is good, there is evil. Like you mentioned, secular music, sacred music. No, man, if you're doing something out of a heart of gratitude for the giver of those gifts, it's a sacred thing. Now you can do it for personal gain, when selfish reasons and self-aggrandizement. You can do all that stuff, and you can put out a message that is, it's hurtful and harming to people, and it not only takes people to a bad place, but keeps them in a bad place and dwelling on themselves and being negative. And yeah, you can do that. You can teach people and create a culture of selfishness. Look at me, look what I can get. It's all about me. You can teach that if you want to. Or you can take your business or your tools or your skills or your songs, your music, whatever it is that you're doing, and you can do it just to help people. So, I don't know. That's kind of where I started seeing all that.
Yeah. Well, man.
But I do want to say it does not diminish in any ways. None of that was said to diminish using your life and your skills, working in a church or a nonprofit or education or anything like that. It didn't make it diminish, and I wasn't running away from it for the sake of running away from it.
Right.
It just, for us in that point in our lives, without going into too many details, we need to make that change.
Right.
So, but it does not, but I do that stuff for free still.
Right.
But for us, that's not what I needed to do.
Right.
That's all. I did want to make sure that, like, I'm so incredibly grateful for all the years that I got to do all of that. And I don't have a reason. I wasn't given a reason to harbor anything.
Right.
Any ill will. I'm grateful for all the people who put into my life, and gave me opportunities to serve people and learn a lot of lessons. So I did want to say that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. And it's, you know, God does call people to ministry, and that is, you know, ministry, there is absolutely a place for that. And to anybody that works in ministry, man, like, hats off to you, because it's such a tough environment to work in.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's also, though, you know, a lot of people that feel like if they're not in ministry, that then they're not in ministry.
Right.
So, well,
Nope.
I'm trying to work on that. For me, man, like in my business with insurance, like, get some really hot conversations.
I
You know,
bet
and
you do.
There's days I don't want to do it. You know, there's days I'm like, I have to make this phone call.
Mm-hmm.
When you're dealing with people's money and with people's stuff, like, first of all, those are already items that are like, you know, Jesus and, you know, had a lot of opinions on those things, or a lot of, not opinions, but a lot of directions on how we should handle those things.
Mm-hmm.
You can read for yourself, pick up the old Bible. But knowing that, it's like, okay, how do I still follow Christ and, you know, do what I do, you know, talk about, you know, money and dealing with materials. And it's like all of those conversations, just talking about it, you know, gets my anxiety up, because it's like kind of unnatural. You know,
Right.
our world is, you need this stuff, you need to build, you need to make it all about you. What's the thing now everyone says? It's like, it's all about your truth, and it's about your life and about
Right.
you. And it's like, you know, that's what I'm serving and coming to every day, you know. And it can make me weary, it can make me tired, it can make me discouraged. Like, can't tell you how many times I'm like, man, what, you know, am I supposed to be doing this?
Oh, I'm sure.
And you know, for me, it's just something I've been trying to dig into in my own life. So what you're saying is really encouraging to me, because having that perspective changes everything.
Mm-hmm.
If I go into a call thinking this person's upset, they're all mad, probably going to lose their business, that's not going to go well for me.
No, man, that
you know,
stinks.
and it's like, okay, well, what if we just turn that around to like, why can't you just meet that person where they are, you know, and focus on the reason we're supposed to do any of this, and it's to serve God with our gifts and honor Him, and that's bottom line. You know?
You got to stay there, because I've been that person that you're dealing with. You know, everything sounds good, and you're asking me all the right questions this morning, but I've been in that frustrating seat, calling, needing the help, and yeah, you're in a tough position. That's a tough job, tough industry to be in, but you do have an scientifically speaking, darkness is the absence of light. You know, and you get to be the chance to shine some light into somebody's situation to help diffuse. I'm sure have you learned some important lessons or helps in defusing situations?
Yeah, I would say definitely don't talk.
Okay.
Had a lady the other day just completely bless me out. And, you know, and I go back, I get fixated. It's like, so our calls are recorded because everything like has to be, and I have this, you can call it obsession. Like, if something goes bad on a call, I'll listen to it 30 times.
Oh, really?
Because, like,
Afterwards? Oh,
'cause
you're
I'm
like
a people pleaser,
Monday
man.
morning looking at the game, you know, play by play.
Yeah. Well, I don't listen. Just if something happened, you know,
Yeah.
like I don't listen to any of our calls, like, ever, unless it was like a critical item,
you're
something,
like-
somebody got upset.
Okay.
Because then I get hyper focused, and like it stresses me out, man. Because I'm a people pleaser.
Yeah.
The worst thing you could do to me is tell me you're upset, or tell me that something like that I did was not good enough. Like, or if someone's upset, that's an indication of like I didn't do something well enough.
Yeah.
At least that's just what it tells
I hear
me.
you. Yeah.
And so, you know, going back and listening to the most recent call I had like that, you know, I am proud of myself for how I handle it, because what I've learned in the past is like, it doesn't matter what you think you need to say back to them. Like, they've already, in their mind, they're in a place that you're not going to pull them out
How long
of.
you been doing it now?
Now about 7 years.
That's what I thought.
So I've had my business for, you know, we just hit 5 years back in October.
Yeah.
So a little over 5 years now in my own company. So yeah, man, it's like, at first it was establish my integrity, make sure they know that actually, no, you shouldn't be upset because this is what I did and this is why you're wrong. You know, turn from that to literally just be quiet. You know, let them say what they need to say. If they're being rude and disrespectful and misbehaving, you know, fine, you know, but I'm not going to also
Give 'em
do
some
that.
space to
So
do
it
that.
had to teach me to let them be heard, and then go straight to, you know, hey, I don't want to sit here and argue. Don't want to really like look, you're upset. Tell me how I can make this right, or what I need to do, and move on from there.
Yeah.
Whereas it used to be, I have to educate them on why we're here, and they don't really care
Nope.
about that. You
Don't
know,
wanna
they
know that. Yeah.
so
It's funny that your first answer is so simple. Don't talk.
yeah. I
Don't
mean,
talk.
what's the John? Is it John Maxwell? Seek first to understand, then to be understood.
Yeah.
My dad has my whole life. I mean, he got me the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Stephen Covey, I think it
Yeah,
is. It's one of
Covey.
those guys.
Yeah.
I forget who it is that had the actual quote: "Seek first to understand, then to be." I think it was Covey. We'll fact check that. Whatever. My dad has always pounded that into my head.
Really?
And I never listened to it. Like I listened to it, but I never like what does that mean? You know, I've always been so concerned with like, you know, yeah, but I've got to protect what I've got going for
Right,
me. And it's
right.
like, no, man, die to that.
It's interesting that you didn't. It was put into you, but you didn't grasp it till years later.
So I was
You know,
forced to.
Yeah.
Because if I kept going the way I was going, it was going to drive me crazy.
'Cause that probably gives you some insight into being a parent. Like how many you're gonna have to say stuff that doesn't click.
Yeah.
It doesn't click. It doesn't click, and you're just putting it in there. You're just putting it in the savings bank for later.
Yeah, man.
You know.
And that's what I was told. And it's becoming, you know, my son, he's 2
Mm-hmm.
and he's getting smarter every day. And I'm seeing that more every day. There's going to be those times where maybe he's, you know, 28 years old talking about how my dad always says this and I didn't get it till now. So
Yeah.
yeah, man, that's one of the things, you know, I just think there's a lot of power in that. Really just trying to understand people, because you don't need to put on them what they should think. They can get there. You got to let them get there. You got to got to trust that to God. So I feel like, yeah, that's been the biggest learning thing for me. So,
I got one more question about that.
yeah,
You got a lot of. You made me chuckle when you said somebody. I know what it means, but you might have some listeners out there that don't know what this means.
sure.
So this lady called you up and blessed you out.
yeah. Yeah. So
Was she
lit-
dropping some bombs on you?
you know, yeah, there were some bombs. It was just, I was
A
told,
little bit hot under the collar.
well, I was told to stop talking and that you're going to listen to me. And, you know, it was just straight, like, basically, you know, hey, trying to understand the scenario, called the person, hey, I got this email about this. I want to just get some clarity. And then it's just steamroll. And I go to ask a question like, okay, well, tell me. And in the middle of me trying to discover more, it was just, you're not going to, you know, so you're not going to talk. And I'm talking, you shut up. You know, there were some words in there. And this is what happened, and from my perspective,
They blessed you out.
which, you know, come down to it, like, in my head, like, she never called our office. Who knows who she was trying to call? You know, had all our information, just wasn't calling us.
Yeah.
We know, you know, we didn't find out this, you know, information until we got the email about what had happened, and you know, just trying to come in and as I was trying to come in and say, hey, look, I don't know what went wrong, but there was a miscommunication somewhere. We don't have any record that you ever reached out to us, but I couldn't get there. Didn't matter.
Nope.
Didn't need to get there. She had already decided in her mind, you know, where
Yep.
she was going with it. And so I just sat back,
Listened to your dad and said, "Don't talk."
just let her do her thing. And I told her Merry Christmas. And yeah, man, that's it.
That's it.
just kind of let it go. And
Sometimes that's where it needs to go.
it was tough, man, though.
It is.
It ruined my day. It really did. Because I was like, man, like, I know this person, like, hurt people hurt people.
They
Just
do.
talking to Ben King. We were, it was the day before that happened. We were just talking. Ben's in the mortgage business. So
Yep.
even more so, like, heavy environment around finance and
Yeah,
stuff. You're not getting
pressure
a house
and
unless.
timelines. I know.
So we were talking about that, and he said, look, man, like, one thing that, you know, may help is like, and I've heard this before, but when he said it, it really clicked because it was what I needed to hear in that moment, is like, sometimes hurt people just try to hurt people. And like, I don't need to be so worried about setting that person off. Like, I was just upset because they were upset. You know, I don't want people to be upset.
Right.
I want everybody to be happy and everybody to like flowers and sunshine, but you know, that doesn't always happen, right?
No.
And so the thing I had to realize, like, okay, I need to stop making this about me, because in my mind, I just like, you know, pitying myself. Oh, you know, she was upset, and you know, whatever. Where it's like, maybe she was just hurt, you know, and maybe, you know, maybe that's, you know, the outcome of that. You know, maybe by me not, you know, coming off the handle and telling her where she was wrong, you know, could have done something. I don't know. So, yeah, man, good questions though.
No,
So
that's-
thanks for letting me dig into that. Yeah. it's
Yeah.
kinda
No,
came out of
I
nowhere,
want
but-
to. I want to learn some stuff.
Well, yeah, man, there's a lot of people that can learn a lot just through real life stuff that happens, man. And that's the whole point of this show. It's like just being real, you know? So enough about me and all that stuff. When you got into Ohio, so
Yeah.
your coffee so you were roasting your own brand of coffee. And what was the brand of coffee? Tell me about that.
There's two, actually. Started off with one. Sometimes you think you have a good idea, and you realize it doesn't quite click with everybody. So that good idea was Simple City Coffee. But I spelled it Simpli, capital S, or capital C, ITY. But one word, it was like Simple City, but simplicity. It was a play off the word simplicity.
Okay.
Because I love the concept of just some simple things in life. You know, the simplest things in life make people happy, and everybody enjoys the simplest things. You know, you get people around a fire, you get some music going, some good food, some good drink. Like, it's good.
So true.
It's simple, and every single culture all around the world enjoys those good, simple little things. Doesn't matter how much you have. It's all the same things, just maybe it's more exclusive. But every culture, all throughout history, has enjoyed those basic, simple things. Some good company, good food, a little warm fire, just little comforts of life. So that was it. But everybody always mispronounced it. Nobody knew how to say it. And when you realize real quickly that if you have to keep explaining your great idea, it may not be a great idea.
Been there.
Yeah, I had a friend who came up on a Sunday morning at church, Craig. Craig's a cool guy, and he's just straight shooter. He'll just, like no guile, no malice, will just be like, have you ever thought about it like this? No, Craig, because my idea is really good. It's like, no, I had to take it, especially I think, Lord knew who ought to be asking that question. And he said, why don't you, you like playing guitar, man, why don't you go with something like acoustic? Like, I didn't want to like the idea because it wasn't my idea.
Yep.
I didn't. But the more I thought about it, the more I could not get away from that. So that actually started off the little chain of events, So I was like, you know what? Not that far into this. It's okay. I've already had a design made. It was Simple City Coffee. That's not a good idea. The website's there. The social media's there. I made my little stamps for my craft bags. Everything was there. I was already selling coffee. I've got, pictures from way back in the day set up, and, I'm at an event, and it's all Simple City, even had Christmas ornaments made and everything. Nope, acoustic coffee roasters. I couldn't shake it. So we went with acoustic coffee roasters. I play acoustic guitar. My wife plays piano. It's like that's part of who we are. And the idea was just like one simple little word for a tagline: unplug. Just unplug and play loudest for those around you was the idea. Because I love, I'm a big Switchfoot fan. You probably figured that would come up at some point here. And so, what I love the Switchfoot concerts. They're freaking awesome. They're so much fun. They play loud. I always want to be right down, right up front, right next to the stage. I want to see the set list, all that stuff. And most of the time we do. Those are great. But there's something that John does after the shows that you don't see a ton. Other people do it some, but he does after shows. And he'll just be like, all right, folks, I'm going to be at this pier, or I'm going to be in this cafe, or I'm going to be on the steps of the venue, whatever it is. And I'll be there in 15 minutes. See y'all. And he just shows up and plays like another 30-minute set. None of the band, no security, no nothing. He's just out there with whoever shows up. It might be 20 people, it might be 50 people. It's somewhere in that range typically. And we're just hanging out. It's way after the show. It's like midnight. And he's unplugged, and he's got his guitar, he's got his harmonica, and he's just interacting with the crowd. He might sit on top of somebody's van. He did that at one show. He's like, hey, is anybody's van? The girl's like, yeah, it's mine. She's like, you mind if I sit on top of it so I can see all your faces? Yeah, why don't you come up here with me? And she sat right on top of her van with John as he's jamming. And it's cool. It made me realize, wow, I love the loud shows. Those are fun. Like a lot of people from a large distance can hear and see and enjoy. But the stuff that I love the most is just when it's time to unplug and see eyeball to eyeball and be around some people.
Right.
So that was why I went with that idea. And I reached out to my buddy Jeff for both of those, and he did the design for the our brand and stuff like that. Real simple stuff, but he was just Jeff's so fun to work with. I'll show you this picture because Lynn just sent this to me. So this picture, you'll appreciate this. There's a picture of my boy and, you know, Timmy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so there's a picture of my boy, Owen, and Timmy back in Ohio. And Lynn just sent this, Timmy's mom just sent this to me and Heather.
Yeah.
They're just sitting, chilling in our house.
That is awesome.
Oh, you know, this would have been 2016. So 8 years ago. And Timmy don't look like that anymore.
No.
No, man. Timmy's
Like, I don't even recognize him.
no, he's a big boy now, man. He's, you know, he's got like 2 inches on me, and he's got like, you know, 50, 60 pounds on me. He's a lot bigger.
He's awesome, man.
Yeah, I love him. So what I didn't know about that picture, I sent it to Isaiah. I was like, hey, send this out to the Barista Boys, you know, and they laughed about it. Well, Timmy's like, oh man, you know what was going on that night? I remember everything about that night. Isaiah's like, no. He's like, well, my dad and Doug were talking about starting up the coffee roastery in Ohio. And so
Wow.
he remembers that evening and, you know, talking about acoustic coffee roasters. Tim helped me build the website, you know, and so Tim's helped direct all of that here in, you know, for everything now. Tim's one of my business partners. And it's been pretty cool. So we got everything up and rolling starting there in Ohio. Got my roaster hooked up in Eddie's aunt's coffee shop of all places. It was like 45 minutes from our house.
Yeah.
And then I would go from there on Saturday mornings, go roast up a little bit, pack up, and head off to the farmers market out in Cortland, which was another 25 minutes from there. You know, so it was you know, I was hustling. I was moving pretty good out there. But it was a lot. It was just people though. And Jeff ended up doing our Because Coffee whole our whole brand design for down here, and him and his family moved down here and from North Carolina, and he's actually running the Christian school now just down the road and is our daughter's principal. And it's wild.
That is
you know,
awesome.
through all this type of stuff. And you ought to talk with Jeff. Jeff's wild. Love that guy. Been through some. I won't steal any of the story if you ever do talk to him. But he'll definitely talk. But he's got a crazy story. A lot of full circle things going.
I like crazy stories.
It
So
is.
before we get into the Because Coffee transition, because I'm assuming that's kind of what's coming next, let's take a quick break.
Yes, I'll get some more coffee.
Yeah, me too. What are you drinking on? What's our final stretch roast?
I went right back to Because Cheer, man. The Christmas blend is my favorite blend of the year.
Because Cheer.
Oh yeah.
Got some spice notes in there and good stuff.
I went with have you ever had Wassail?
Wassail.
Wassail. Yeah, man. It's the winter beverage of my people. So
Really? Your
yeah,
people.
Yeah, Scotland.
Okay.
So it's like it's got, you know, real British roots to it. So it's a spiced mulled cider that they would serve. Different variations of it. Some of it have like mulled wine in it. Some of them don't. You know, that type of deal. But they would serve it as a real warming drink in the wintertime. You go door to door and do different things. And so, but it was a spiced mulled cider that, you know, they would take different fruits like oranges and cranberries and cinnamon sticks and star of anise and all those a lot of real warm spices.
Yeah.
And time in a little cheesecloth and boil it inside.
Wassail.
Yeah, wassail. It looks like wassail.
Wassail.
Yeah, there's a Christmas song, "Wassailing We'll Go." Like you've heard the tune because
Yeah.
it's, you know, but it looks like wassail, but wassail.
So you
That's the inspiration for this blend.
so the notes of that through it.
Yeah, it's like, you know, real apple cidery, kind of juicy, warmy spices, you know, that type of stuff. Cinnamon, kind of in the background. So it's a brighter Christmas blend.
Yeah.
So
It's from other year. You've brought it back every year.
Every
or you
year.
change it a little bit.
yeah, every year we try to emulate, you know, the one from the year before. So and the recipe will change from year to year, but I mean we always have, you know, it's 50% of an anaerobic process, natural Costa Rican, 25% of a natural process Ethiopian, and the other 25% is a washed process peaberry from Brazil.
Very cool. So
yeah.
pea berry, is that that goes in the blend?
Yeah, so that's the pea berry. You get, you know, when it comes to coffee, the pea berries are mutants, man. They're the X-Men of the coffee. So
pea,
they're the outcasts.
it is coffee.
Yeah, yeah. So it describes, it's what happens is coffee beans. You know, when you pour it, you dump out your bag, and they come and they've got the rounded side and the flat side.
And the crack. What do they call it? You've told me before, or no, that's when roasting. You listen for the crack.
First crack, second crack.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you get those two halves of the beans, you know, so they're like little turtles, you know, but they fit together inside the coffee cherry.
Right.
And so the pea berry, though, what happens is it's not, that's a dichotomous seed. It's, we call it a bean, but it's a seed. So it's a dichotomous seed. It's two halves inside there. And so with a pea berry, it's just a mutant, it mutated, and instead of being two halves, it's just one bean, and it grew over like this, and it's got one little kind of a crack right there.
Right.
But it's grown over, and so instead of having two halves of one seed, it's just one seed. And they're typically smaller, and there's only one of them inside of the coffee cherry. But you don't grow them like that on purpose, so they're just sorted out. And so Brazil is a big producer, so you'll get quite a few pea berries from Brazil, and they used to just throw them away. It's like the ribs, they used to be, it was just the trash, they'd throw it away.
Yeah.
And then people started cooking them, figuring out, oh wow, this is really good when you cook it, like this, and the rib turned out to be a thing. So that's how the pea berries are. They used to throw them away, and somebody who didn't have as good access to everything was like, I'm just gonna try this. Hey, dang, these are good.
Huh.
Some people think that they actually have a little bit more sweetness and a more, it's more concentrated coffee flavor, sweetness and the different, complexities that you get in coffee, concentrated inside of, it's like 2 for 1.
Right.
I don't know. I just like it. I'm not gonna like blow smoke up your shirt about that.
Yeah.
So I like coffee. I know some stuff about coffee, but I'm not gonna sit here and just try to parrot everything that I hear from everybody else.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. Yeah.
Coffee's going down the line almost of like the wine connoisseur, So many people I've met through this shop
Yep.
just discover a passion for that, for coffee and just specialty craft coffee. I don't get coffee anywhere else but this place. Put me on record. Dude, Indonesia, West Java.
Yep.
I call it Indonesia because it says it on the bag, but it's the West Java dark roast daily.
Yep.
Bring in my...
That one's almost gone for the season, man.
Is it really?
It is.
Well, you're going to have to turn me on to a
We just
new
brought
one.
in the last 2 or 3. I did. I was just talking to our supplier about that. It's almost, our supply's almost gone because we had, so much reserved and kind of committed for.
Yeah.
And so that's just about gone. We got the last of it shipped over to us.
I would say I'm heartbroken, but I'm really not because I know the next thing you guys are going to have is going to be just as awesome.
Yeah, I'm trying out. I'm trying out a Ugandan that it's not from the same part of the world at all, but it's sounds like it's got some fun qualities that'll lend itself toward a darker roast like we do with that Java.
Right.
That sets itself apart from the other. From Old Friend. Our House Dark, and so Old Friend is got its own. I love that one for what it is. But the Java's got some different qualities about it that just help it, for being a darkish type of roast, it helps it stand apart from the other guy. So
Yeah.
I didn't want to bring in another coffee that was going to taste too similar. So
Right.
I think I'm eager to get my hands on this Ugandan to try it out.
Yeah, I'm excited to try it, man. That's my go-to. It's dark roast on, all day long.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, I do my AeroPress.
You've been
at
like
home.
that, like day
Since
one
I
you
met
came in
you.
the shop. Yeah.
Yeah, man, because like something about the lighter coffee is like my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
Man, love her to death. Her and I have a special bond. We always will. She introduced me to coffee because she used to like growing up in the morning, my brother and I, we'd be over there staying at her house, and it's like nothing gets done until she's had her coffee. Like she would make us sit there like, no, like when this cup is empty, that's when we'll go do this. Like coffee time was important, man.
Yeah.
But her style of coffee was much different, man. It was not even one full scoop of Maxwell House
Yeah.
into the maker. I'm talking this much coffee for a full pot. I mean, it was straight just, I called it bean water. 'Cause
Oh,
it was
yeah.
literally just water with like a tinge of coffee, but she would make it that way. That's how she loved
wanted
it,
it.
hated it strong. She would make it, and then the powder coffee mate creamer original. I mean,
Yeah, man.
I can smell it and feel it. Like I would
Uh-huh.
figured out how she liked it, so I would like start to make her coffee, and then
Yeah.
she let me start drinking it way too young, but that's okay. Now I love coffee now, and I'd say that's a byproduct of that.
Oh yeah.
Stunning growth. I'm big enough. We're good.
Yeah. You didn't need any bigger. Nope.
So, just through doing that, she liked her coffee that way, but I don't know what it was. I just never was like, I always was adding scoops, and she'd be like, don't put all the scoops in there. I'm like, but this is what makes it good, So I,
One more.
so
Give me
yeah,
more.
just started to love strong coffee, and then meeting you, man, like coffee shops, a lot of them didn't get it right. It's like there's a lot of great coffee shops out there, but I'm a dark roast guy, and like the earthy, lighter floral stuff, like never really hit my palate well. Never something I like. I like just the straight dark. You get the chocolatey, the smoky notes in some of them. I mean, I'm gonna sound like an idiot trying to talk about these. That's just kind of what it tastes like to me.
Honestly, that's the best descriptions. Is the stuff that's
Chocolatey,
like
smoky, smooth.
Okay, good, perfect. You nailed it. I mean, that's why I don't try to get too pretentious about the stuff. I mean, that's the thing inside the coffee industry. And I'm not bucking against it. It's like you guys do it like this, and I love the tasting notes, and they're fun. I picked up, somebody brought in some coffee the other day, and it was wild. It was really wild. It's from Vietnam, and people don't realize how much coffee comes out of Vietnam. There's a ton.
Really?
Oh yeah, massive producer. And so it was a Robusta coffee, which we don't drink a lot of Robusta here in the States. Mainly Arabica.
Robusta. So like, I hear that in cigar world. Robusto.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So this is it's you got those. Most Americans are drinking Arabica because it tastes better. Generally speaking, it's a better tasting coffee.
Better cover all, sort of.
Yeah. And you light roast, dark roast, all that fun stuff. But Robusta is it's a hardier plant. It's a bigger plant. It produces more coffee. And it's stronger. It lasts. It endures more.
Right.
And it also has more caffeine. Typically speaking, it has higher caffeine content, but it is typically more bitter, and but they're working on some specialty grade Robusta right now, which I think is super cool. I love it. But it was a Robusta coffee, and I don't know where they got the tasting notes in the bag from. Again, that was on them. They got it. That's fine. But it was some like starfruit and nectarine and caramelized whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was some fun sounding, sweet sounding type of tasting notes. I'm like, okay, let's see if we get that out of this coffee. You're never gonna guess the tasting notes that I got out of it.
Yeah.
And it was. We might have somebody trying to walk in for a second. They might have.
All good.
There they are.
All good.
I got cedar. It was like smoked cedar, and rusty nails.
Rusty nails.
Rusty nails.
Let's go.
They're really and on top
What
of that.
gauge nail?
Oh, it's a 16 penny. Yeah, all the way.
Straight finish or carpenter? I don't know my nails.
Yeah, no, that's ring shank. No, it had that rusty nail taste, like that strong iron.
Yeah.
It was like wooden
Like
iron.
you're tasting almost like a bloody taste.
Yeah,
Like,
it tastes like wooden iron right there. It was an odd taste.
Interesting.
And several of us, once I said that, he's like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm getting. And we all were generally in agreement that we weren't sure if we liked it or didn't like it. It's not that we didn't honestly dislike it. It was odd. It's a
just
very
different.
puzzling coffee, yeah. So coffee's funny. It's especially when you start learning how to taste some things. Like that sounds funny to say. You learn how to taste. It's like but we had to learn how to walk, but we did it pretty naturally. We had to learn how to feed ourselves. Your 2-year-old, you got to teach him how to go to the bathroom properly. I mean, so he can go to the bathroom, but you got to teach him how to do it right.
Dude, pooped in the kitty potty for the first time last night.
Let's go. Last night. Hey, man, you're winning. You're getting there.
Dude. The wife was away doing a work trip in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And yeah, dude, it usually ends up in the bathtub. This time, dude, we made it. So
Yeah.
coffee notes and yeah, dude,
Yes.
learning how to potty train kind of go hand in hand, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Tasting.
Coffee helps you get there to
It
the
does.
bathroom. So
Nope.
I'm so corny, dude.
You learn. The thing is, like, you think, okay, well, tasting. I do that all the time. I taste things. But you can learn how to taste things better.
Right.
Yeah, you can learn how to move and navigate, but like, it's funny how much damage you can do to your body if you don't learn how to walk properly.
Right.
I mean,
True.
Like your gait, how far and how you land, and how your ankles are tilted, and how your feet are in or out, like all that stuff affects your hip and your back. Well, learn how to walk properly, you can fix a lot of problems. Enjoy life more, and if you learn a little bit more about tasting coffee, or tasting in general, you can enjoy some of the foods, and you can learn what you enjoy. You can learn why you enjoy it. You can learn how to prepare it better for people. So
Right.
my whole thing about it, I just liked it because it was something that I could share with people. It's an accessible thing that I could share with a lot of people.
Right.
So now we're like flying real fast here with all of us. But
I love it.
Went from tasting notes of rusty nails and smoked cedar to why I like sharing coffee with people. But
Hey, but it's all of it's complex.
It is.
And I think that's what it comes from. You know, we can go around in all these different circles around it because it's a complex thing. There's a beauty to that. Speaking of that beauty,
yes, you're going to talk about me?
let's talk about absolutely you and those gorgeous brown locks. So,
Talk about corny joke here. Sorry, I had to do it.
hey man, that's what I'm here for. We have the annual Cornball Classic is our family golf tournament. My late grandfather was the cornball king, dude.
Really?
So that's all me. You're gonna get a lot of
love
that
it.
through this. This is just the first episode, but a lot of that'll come through the show, I'm sure. So moving into more complex things
Yeah.
in a good way. So we went through So was it simplicity? So here
Yep.
you are. Here we are with
See?
so simplicity.
Simple City.
Simple City. Then we ended up with Acoustic, and that's where you met Eddie.
Yep.
Eddie's part owner, investor in the group with
Yep.
his involvement.
So I actually knew Eddie back in the Indiana days through my work with the college and stuff like that. So I knew Eddie back, I don't know, it's been almost 20 years I've known Eddie. More
Yeah.
than 20 years.
Right.
No, not more than 20 years. It was probably about 15
Right.
years. So known him loosely through that time. But yeah, so I got but coffee, he was already down here in Georgia with several friends of mine, and they had this idea. He had several businesses going, and all of the businesses were pointing towards the because. So it was CMI, Christian Media International. It's now known as Impact Others. Christian Media International is a focused portion of Impact Others. Impact Others is now a broader reaching entity that focuses on the 4 pillars of providing clean water and food and sustainable businesses or sustainable jobs businesses and orphanages. So in other parts of the world outside of the U.S. So that's what the main focus is. CMI, though, when all of that nonprofit started, it was, and CMI still is focused on sharing the hope of the gospel with the 100 major languages, 100 major spoken languages of the world. So if you look across and you say, okay, these are the 100 major spoken languages, we're working our way through having the gospel and subsequent messaging. It's just hopeful, helpful messaging that's gospel focused. It's not focused on a lot of side details and divisiveness. It's just providing the hope of the gospel in those 100 major languages. We've gotten about almost 50, but it's in mid 40s, mid to high 40s worth of that of those languages. About 45 of those languages have been recorded with at least a year's worth of content to be broadcasted on television. So that's either going out on satellite, or in some cases, it's going out on YouTube and places like that. Some countries don't have satellite, don't do it. They have the technology, but they don't watch it.
Right.
They watch YouTube. They watch all of their streaming and everything there. So that's been the focus of CMI. And so what they'll do is we used to bring people here into Dawsonville, record them, and if we didn't have a translator or have somebody speak that language, we would just get it translated and dub it over. Now, though, we've found that it really makes a lot more sense to have people from the country who know the culture, who know the idioms and the languages and the slangs and the humor and all that stuff, and know how to connect with people
Right.
in their part of the world. And so they'll come, not really record here so much anymore. We've begun to build studios across the world. So I think we've got 6 built right now. Yeah, Colombia, Brazil, Peru, Ghana, Nigeria, Egypt. I don't know if the one in India is done yet or not. And then I believe Ukraine. We got studios, and we're working on have a total of 15 that
Wow.
we're shooting for. So about halfway there.
Wow.
And so people from depending on where they're at or how easily accessible that country is,
Right.
for somebody like going from Pakistan to the U.S., is more difficult right now than it is going from Pakistan to one of the other countries.
Right.
So we've, in some instances, before we had studios built, our guys flew to Thailand, set everything up in Thailand. You had guys from Pakistan come in, guys from, different parts of Europe come in, and they did that out of Thailand for a little while, because, just the hardships of getting in and out of certain countries.
Right.
So, close to mid-50s, close to that is the languages that have been recorded with at least a year's worth of content in that language by somebody from that country or somebody who speaks that language.
Right.
It changes anywhere from 30 to 35, 38 or so active broadcasts, because then we have to find a station, broker the deal, raise the funds, sign the contract,
Right.
and air it. So, depending on contracts, and we're always looking to be on bigger, better stations.
Right.
So it might have to start on a no-name station or even a Christian station. We don't want to be on the Christian station. We want to be on, just your everyday average
stuff, mainstream.
Yeah. So, and that's happened more often than not. I mean, one of the, we're on Al Jazeera. Why is the gospel being, shot out on Al Jazeera?
Right.
So it's pretty neat. Paul Dudka is out there on his country's equivalent of he's Ukraine, their equivalent of CNN, and he's being broadcasted there in the evening, 2 nights a week.
Wow.
He has a show, but every night of the week, every 5 nights a week, he's broadcasted. He's got a 2-minute segment before the evening news.
That's fantastic.
Pretty
And
cool.
this all came out of the
CMI, and that was Eddie's original. Like, that's why he wants to do business.
Right.
That's his because.
Right.
So the CMI, and then eventually Impact Others now, because Impact Others has a really broad reach.
Right.
Not everybody gets or understands wanting to share the gospel in the 100 major languages of the world. Anybody can get behind helping to feed and clothe and provide water and sustainable businesses for people, for underprivileged people across the world.
right, and they find your message through
Oh yeah,
what
yeah,
you're doing.
Yeah, and then we're all, obviously, you're leading with love, and you're helping people, and you're providing needs and meeting needs, and that obviously opens up the door to share why we're doing that. So but boots on the ground. Like, I'm not involved in that day to day. I
Right.
get to be a part of it. Our team has been a part of it. The coffee we thought it was going to have a different impact on all of that than it has, but it's pivoted. We thought it was going to be more of a financial contributor. And turned out more than a financial contribution. It's been more of a connection contributor.
Right.
So, because people are like, oh wow, this is great. Yeah, we want to support it, or I want to go on a trip. I want to help build this out. I want to help be a part of this or that. So it's been neat. So that's Eddie and Dave really put that all together and have been the hands-on guys with that. Dave just got back from Mexico, working with an orphanage this week. You know Dave, and
Oh, yeah.
before that, he
Love
and Eddie
Dave.
were both in Egypt.
That's
and
amazing.
one of the guys pastor that we work with there has 40 properties throughout the country, and I think mostly in Alexandria, and he's got medical facilities in every single one, and
Wow.
has churches in every single one.
Wow.
So, and just neat people. I mean, so. But that's why Eddie was doing business down here with several guys, and he had a business going on there. They said, hey, what do you want to do? Let's do coffee. We all like coffee. So let's start up some type of coffee shop and have that as a way to be able to, generate some funds for the nonprofit. And so they reached out to me, and I was the only coffee guy they knew at that point. And they all loved coffee, and I knew them. They knew my coffee. I said, all right, guys, I think that sounds really cool. I'm in. So we sold our house and moved to Georgia from, just outside of Cleveland, Ohio. But I told him, I said, I don't know beans about running a cafe. Like, I don't know anything about that. I don't know how to do that. I've never even worked at McDonald's before.
Right.
My first job was construction, and I've done a lot of things, but had my own business, but I didn't know anything about running a restaurant. So I said, let's keep that side of it really minimal, and let's roast coffee, see what we can do. Let's try to build a business based off of roasting, and keep the other side pretty minimal. I'd known a shop or two who had done it like that, and they slowly over time grew their cafe side. It was right there in Ohio.
Right.
It's like, hey, Bent Tree did this, shout out to Bent Tree. You guys are awesome. I love your coffee. So figured let's go at it like that. So, and I wish we would have done more cafe heavy in the beginning. I was just a little bit, I was too afraid.
Really?
Yeah.
So afraid of what? What are you afraid of?
I didn't know.
Yeah.
That's most people's typical root fear is the fear of the unknown. You just don't know. And I don't, by nature, I don't like to try things. I don't like to try to figure out things that I'm not familiar with. I'll put off fixing something at the house that I don't know how to do. I just, if I don't know how to do it, I'm tentative to get into it. Now, it helps though when you have good people,
100%.
And so I've got better people around me now, and I'm not as afraid to try as much because I've got more people who know how to do more things.
Right.
And I've also gotten over some of the fear because you just figure it out. There are lots of people out there. I don't know if this sounds coarse or not, or judgmental, but whatever. Like, there are lots of people out there who are dumber than me who are doing it better than I am. So that's a good little motivation.
100%.
Put that on a poster and look at it every day.
Yeah, it's so true though.
At least I'd like to think that I tell myself there got to be dumber people out there.
Yeah.
So
well, that's us when we're getting ready to have parents, or getting ready to be parents.
Again,
It's like, yo, dude, we're gonna ruin this kid. But then it's like, you know what? People that are people dumber than me have done this a lot better.
Yeah.
So you know what? We're gonna be okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's like I said, maybe a really bad motivation, but
It's true though. It all comes down to confidence and belief in what you're capable of too. I think.
Yeah, so that pushed me forward, with the catalyst and bringing in the espresso machine. I had so many customers, and I know that when we opened up, we could have carried a lot more momentum had we just opened up with more of a cafe. But I mean, you remember it. We had a roaster. We did French press. I didn't even use the coffee brewer, for crying out loud. I French pressed all that coffee, put it inside the carafes.
Yep.
And served it, and we had cold brew and pour overs. Like, that was it. And all these people came in looking for the new coffee shop on the roastery, and there's no vanilla latte.
Yep.
And all the basics left.
And you're like, we got a problem.
Yep. And I was still a little bit at my stuck in my ways on that, and like, that's not how we do it.
We have some more guests.
Yeah.
We should just interview them.
I know, right? Ramen would be a fun talk, man. But that's not how we do it. We're more about this thing. And I had to get over myself. Man, a lot of people wanted lattes. A lot of people wanted that stuff. And that's cool. I'm so glad we did that. And now, guess what? I like espresso drinks too. I was all about black pour-overs, bright, fruity, floral, wild,
that
wacky.
Spoke right to me. I was
I
like,
know.
oh, sweet.
Purist.
Because I don't do all the, espresso stuff. My wife loves it.
Right.
Thank God for Cousin Eddie.
Yes.
The drink here, man. Because that's
eggnog.
like, dude, that's
I love
it.
eggnog. I've
Me
got
too.
an eggnog story. But I wish, though, I would have had maybe some of that confidence, or I don't know, but we didn't. So the catalyst for bringing in the espresso machine was COVID. We figured we were on the upward trajectory, and people wanted to shut businesses down, and oh man, we're small little guys. So we stayed open. We obviously couldn't have people in here hanging out much. We had tables turned over. Tony would come in. He writes on the board. He's like, "I'm 85. I ain't died yet. I'm gonna turn my table, turn my chair over and sit here, Doug." It's like, "Well, you're 85 and you're not dead yet. I'm not gonna kick you out."
Yep. Do what you want, dude.
He was so funny, man. He kept me company.
That guy's cool.
He's
I've gotten
wild.
to talk to him a couple times just coming in here.
Tony's he's so neat, such a neat guy. Been really blessed to get to know him. But then we figured, well, in case anything happens again, we want to punch a window out until we put our drive-thru in. So that really changed things a lot and putting us towards doing more cafe type of stuff. So putting the espresso machine in, we thought, well, now that we're coming back, things are opening back up again. Let's get our espresso machine in now and try to get the crowds going again. Let's put the window in case things tighten up again and we can still serve people. It makes it a lot easier to be able to do that. So we put the drive-through window in and the espresso machine, and then I started learning more and more about I know it sounds stupid, but I'd never really run an espresso machine before. I didn't know anything about espresso. I was like, you remember Ty? I was like, Ty, how do I do this thing?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
So, but now I do. I understand. I can teach people and do all that fun stuff. You learn, adapt, and what do they say in the Marines? Learn,
Yeah.
adapt,
Yeah, adapt,
and
overcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
I was not a Marine, but I appreciate the Marines.
Yeah, I'm very much civilian.
Yeah.
Wish I could hold that same honor, man. But
Yep.
yeah, not for me. I don't know how far I'd make it in that type of environment. Or maybe I would. Who knows?
You did.
Brian ever leaves me or something, then I'll ship out
Oh,
somewhere.
don't you? So that's how we got into it. And expanding the cafe side of it. So that gave us a lot more connections, a lot more people to connect. And honestly, it helped me to unlearn my little bit of coffee pretentiousness. Like, this is how we do things. No, you need to do some more things.
Right.
So I am a lot more approachable about my coffee now. I'm not a coffee jerk, coffee snob. I'm a coffee geek. That's fine. I'm a people geek and a coffee geek. So, but
People
no
geek
more
and
coffee jerk.
Right. Yeah.
Coffee jerk's gone.
Yeah. So I'm sure some learning had to pull you out of that. What was the biggest lesson that you got out of, like, I guess I'm trying to articulate this, moving from a mindset of this is how it's going to go and it's going to be good. Well, it takes some mental sacrifice to dismiss that and be like, you know what, I'm going to go a different route because what I want may not be the best. How did you get there?
I'm probably just, my business partners had a lot to do with that. We talked things through. Eddie provides a lot of great insight and asks whatever questions, asks questions, makes observations. He's good about that. He
Right.
doesn't like to get into the weeds because he
Right.
keeps a different vantage point when he's outside of the weeds.
Right.
So he stays outside of the weeds, asks those questions, probes, sometimes tightens the screws on some conversations. It's good. Dave stays right inside the numbers. That's Dave. Tim, you have to force him to give his opinion, but when you get it out of him, it's good. It's good
one.
insight. Yeah. And he likes ideas like, hey, why don't we try this? And is there a way to do it that's better than what we're doing? And Paul just wants to take on everything all at once.
Oh, yeah.
He wants to get 5 building projects going at once, and he's not afraid to try or do anything.
And he'll get them done, son.
He does. That's just his nature. He just push. If this is in the way, let's find a way to get it out of the way. And then we're going to use whatever we got out of the way to make something else.
That's awesome.
Oh, it's a material. That was an obstacle. Now it's a resource. So that's kind of who Paul is. So honestly, that's how, and then our team grows up right along with that too. They get more confidence. I love seeing our team grow. We haven't gotten into any of that, but our team is they are making so much stuff happen and making decisions, teaching, guiding, training, helping to set up, helping to open. I'm so proud of both the team that's with us and the team that's no longer with us, and for different reasons. And they're just, it's cool to look back and see, to know that you've been a part of people's lives.
Right.
And it's not like you can't take credit for anything. How stupid would that be?
Right.
But you're just a part, it's cool. And they were a part of my life. So, or
Yeah.
are. So.
That was one of the things I actually wanted to dig into
Mhm.
is the people, the team behind it, baristas behind the bar.
Yeah.
You got management out doing a meeting right now. I just saw Isaiah and Sarah out there
Yeah.
working on some stuff.
Mhm.
I can't tell you how many times I've walked out of this place, and even in the Myth and Legends and other coffee shops that you've opened,
Mhm.
really just speaking to here because I have the most experience here. I mean, I'm here all the time.
Yeah.
And can't tell you how many times I've walked out of here and just felt so good because of the people here. Whether it's just one person I interacted with, over ordering my drink or just whoever's there, there's always been a different vibe, if you will, to use a trendy word, to this place. And I've seen a lot of the same people, that I've met 5 years ago when I met you, and even through COVID, you guys grew a lot, after COVID, changing some things, more people came in, but there's a bunch, a lot of people in there in the shop right now I've seen consistently over the years. So there's something you guys are doing to create a culture where they want to stay, but not only do they want to stay, while they're staying and being here and actively engaging in the businesses, they're doing so in a way that brings me back and brings a lot of people back. So many people have stories about this place. In getting ready for this interview, most everybody that I've talked to about it knows this place, knows you, knows some people in the shop, and there's a culture to this place. There is the because Coffee is really the people and, helping each other out. And I've always felt that here. So
Yeah.
from, your standpoint, what are some things that you feel like have contributed to that mindset of the staff and the culture here?
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, the people that we hire, that we're blessed to hire, that come on in here. I mean, and people ask me they ask me all the time, how do you get the folks on the team? I'm like,
Yep.
I feel like God just says, here's another one, because they're incredible people. So the people have to bring that with them. They bring a care for people. I can help nurture that and help, like Isaiah. I told him, I don't know, a year and a half ago, I was like, Isaiah, I need you to engage with people more than what you're doing right now. God's gifted you with some very specific talents, abilities, like with a nature, and honestly, you're holding back, and people need to experience Isaiah. So give a little bit more of Isaiah out.
Oh yeah.
And I've seen him just kind of unpack that and really take that run with him. And he's just like, there's a whole bunch. When you get to talk to people like that, they're bringing the goods already. You just you have an opportunity to be able to help work with them on that.
Cultivate things
nurture
out of
that.
them.
Yeah. So I can't make you have that. I can, we can teach you the espresso. We can teach you the coffee. We can teach all the skills. But honestly, we're looking for people who have that. And so most time, our goal is to try to hire people who come to the shop. Just reaching out on Instagram or just reaching out, that doesn't typically cut it.
Right.
If I don't know you and don't have a chance to see how you interact with our team, that's what we're looking for. That we're looking for somebody who is a coffee geek and a people geek, and you're here. So that's a big contributor to it. And when you get the right people, they help you do that. I can't say I've always been the most intentional about it. I'm a scatterbrained type of person. I'm all over the place. And then you're doing build outs and you leave part of your team. When we built out Myth and Legend, I ditched everybody here, man. They didn't see me. They got salty about it some, not because like me. It's just like, it's just
natural.
It's just the nature of it. It's like, we don't get some of the attention when something's broken, or like it would be nice to have some equipment that they're getting. That's normal. Well, then we've had the build out here, and I haven't been down there at all, and neither is our management so much, and so it's been like that sometimes. So, but the thing is, if you have good people, they kind of ride through that a little bit. You can't abuse that, and I have no intention of that, but they get perspective. So I think that would be another thing. If you allow your team to have some perspective, you share that with them. You don't try to abuse the grace, but you tell them, look, you're going to screw up. I believe in you, and I will work with you and, be there with you when you mess something up. Just afford me that same grace.
Right.
Because I will let you down. I will make some mistakes. I'll try my best to own them. I expect you to make mistakes. I expect you to own them, though. And if you have that mindset, I think that helps a lot, because I'm not going to do everything perfect. I wish I could tell you that everything in all of our handbooks are all complete. I mean, we have a handbook, yeah. I wish I could tell you it was a better handbook. We have training, yes. I wish I could tell you it was better training, and we're working on all those. But in the meantime, it does seem like, the culture. But I did have a misconception about what culture is, though. I had a big misconception about that.
Really?
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
I thought it was just developing good relationships with everybody. And that's what I did behind the bar. When I was working back behind the bar every day. So
Right.
I thought that's what it was. And it's not, because you can only, it's not just having a good relationship, because you can be friends with somebody, but when something goes wrong or something's not done the way you expect it to be done, how do you handle that?
Yeah, then it's back on the heels, and I thought you liked me. Yeah, man.
So that's not culture. How people feel about you and how you feel about them and the company, I think it's more of a byproduct. So the culture really comes from when I realized somebody challenged me on this. We went back and forth. It's like, when you're in an argument with your wife about something and you're both saying the same thing, but it's like,
It's not connecting.
It ain't connecting. And finally it does, because you got a good relationship with your wife, and you decide to stop being a dork. So, I finally clicked, and I realized what it was is, I think most everybody knew what they were supposed to do. You're here, it's pretty simple, straightforward.
Yeah.
Make coffee, take care of people, keep the place clean. You know, it's not a complex
rocket
job.
science.
No. You know, there's a lot of nuance to a lot of it, but it's like that in every opportunity to serve people. So you have that. So you get your what. Then you got to know how to do it. As you grow your business, you know, you start to figure out how you want to do it. I didn't have the opportunity to work in another cafe or restaurant or anything like that. So I didn't have any personal mentoring. It was all learning through podcasts and videos and busting my teeth out. So eventually I began to learn how I wanted to do it, but then you got to teach everybody. So everybody knew what they were supposed to do. Not everybody knew how to do it. Eventually everybody started to learn how to do it more and more. So we got better at that, but that still creates a lot of frustration because then everybody wants, everybody wants accountability. You know, the people act like they don't want it, but we all want to be held accountable for things.
Need to know where we're at.
Yeah, I want the police, even though I don't like getting a ticket, I want to be held accountable for being stupid on the road.
Right.
Because I know that everybody else is being held accountable for being stupid on the road.
Right.
You know, like drive in the lanes, you know, don't do anything stupid and be too distracted, you know, drive a reasonable speed limit, like all that stuff. Notice I didn't say at the speed limit sometimes. At least be reasonable. All of those things. We all want those expectations, but we all want to be held accountable for things. What's missing, and what was really missing, was setting expectations. So I didn't set proper expectations. I felt like, yeah, but everybody knows what they're supposed to do. Now we should be good because now most everybody knows how they're supposed to do it. We're communicating that. Good. But there weren't expectations being set. And because of that, I still was not holding people accountable for things. And we all want to be, I want to be held accountable. We all want to be held accountable for things because we want to know if we're doing our job well.
Right.
We all want to do a good job. Like I assume, when I'm not going to hire you if I don't assume that you want to do a good job. So it's already given. If you're a part of our team, I assume you want to do a good job. I assume you want to kill it. And I assume you're going to have your team's back. I assume you're going to take a good job, good care of people. You're going to try to learn more about coffee. That's a given. And so holding people accountable for things that you haven't set clear expectations for. You know, it's like, okay, you know what to do and you know how to do it, but what are my expectations set within all of that? You know,
Right.
so it would be like, you're supposed to make coffee. Okay, that's what. This is how you're supposed to make it. These are the ratios and the recipes. What are the expectations then? Well, we expect to be able to have making that drink, doing it the right way, following the instructions. We expect to be able to have all the orders done in that 3-minute time range. That's an expectation. So I can't come down and hit everybody for being accountable for having a proper order ticket time if I haven't set the expectation. You know, that's
100%.
Unjust.
Right.
And so that's what kept me from holding people accountable, is because I would be unjust.
Yeah.
I knew that, but when it was made obviously, like blatantly obvious to me that, oh, the biggest key is I'm not setting proper expectations. I can't hold people accountable.
Right.
Oh. So, I mean, I've got, you know, clear as day, I've got some notes in there, filling up a page or two about that in my journal, when it hit me. I mean, I'm a follower of Christ, and he set plenty of expectations.
100%.
You know, and there's, you know, everybody talked about love, but man, there's a lot of accountability. It's like, guys, like, why are you arguing? Like, why are you judging people in this way when you don't have your stuff together over here? And he would call people out on that because the expectations were set.
Right.
So,
More
Yeah.
than just being a nice guy.
it's not just, culture's not just being a nice guy. Like all of that, you're going to be, man, I still, to this day, I thank God for a guy named Keith Cowling. He made this statement to me. He said, Doug, he said, I'm known for being I put pressure on people and on the people who work for me. I expect a lot from them. But I can tell you this, when Jesus made his sales pitch to the disciples, he said, follow me and I will make you fishers of men. He said, look, I'm not Jesus, but Jesus kind of set the example here. He said, if you're going to come work with me, I will help you become something more. I will do my best to help you become something more. And he set expectations and held me accountable. I felt uncomfortable a lot of times, but I appreciate it. I mean, like, it taught me a lot.
Right.
And, that was years ago. And I needed that, man. I needed that big time. I need, that's one of the hardest things, though, about being in business, for yourself, is who's holding you accountable. So I'm a squirrel, man. I'm all over the place.
Right.
And so that's the hardest thing, I would say, is like, all right, good. And now I finally realize I need to set expectations for everybody else and for our business, and so we can hold each other accountable. Well, not just me holding them, but we hold each other accountable. So these are my expectations for you. These are your expectations for me. we'll hold each other accountable. But, it's like, who really wants to hold the boss accountable?
Right.
That's the catch-22 on it.
Yeah.
So that's been my big revelation within the last year. It's been one of the bigger revelations within the last year. Was that?
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's definitely something that's known here. People love this place. You see it grow. You see the myth and legends grow, and like you guys are doing something special here. So outside looking in, it's really easy to assume, oh, they're nice, they're people, and that's it. But hearing that perspective, that brings a lot of light
Well, there's
to
a lot
that.
of struggles and turmoil in good ways because you have good people, but sometimes there are frustrations just like
Yeah.
everywhere else. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's almost that like you're loving them more though by providing that accountability piece where it's like I've had the issue just speaking from myself is like being the nice guy. The way I'm going to have a good staff and people that work for me that do well is I'm just going to be over the top, like forgiving and nice. And it like I had people work for me that, sometimes it didn't really work out best for me or them because
Right.
they're left in the dark on like, I'm not telling them the hard stuff that they do need to know. And then when the things happen that are outside of the expectations, like, I could get frustrated or I could say, hey, let's lock this in.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I never provided that room for those conversations to happen in a loving way. It was
Right.
always just when it came up, and there was no like, there's no base, there was no like base. Yeah. Base of accountability is the biggest thing. Cause it's hard to be it's easy to be the nice guy. It's hard to be the guy that has structure and ultimately you want to create an environment where people know, have that baseline of like, where do you need me to be and where I am. It's not a slap in the face to say, hey, you need to be, here, I think you're capable of doing this a little bit better or having, this is how we do things, not doing that to save somebody else's comfort or feelings. Like you have to do everything in a professional way, but like for me, it's always, oh, you got to save that hard stuff because they're not going to want to come back.
Yeah.
But it's almost like that's not really
If you
the
don't
case.
if you don't believe in me enough to be able to tell me where I need some work on, then why do you have me around?
Yeah.
And you've got to remind you, and you have to actively remind yourself of those things. Like, if you have good people on your team, they want to know. I want to know. Like, if I'm screwing up, I just want you to tell me. Give me a chance to work on it.
Right.
If I'm not doing what I should do or the way I should do it, at least let me know. Don't just sit there and like sulk about it.
Right.
I want to know these things. So if you believe you've got good people on your team, you should be able to have that culture of like, let's be open about this. You should be able to. You should be able to set that type of a standard, I guess.
Right. Well, I got one last thing that I've kind of been chewing on that I wanted to dig into, and we'll kind of wrap up with this one.
Yeah.
And this is going to be more of a question focused towards you. Just things that I've picked up on and things that I've noticed. Just honored to be your friend over these years and
Same,
grow
man.
together. I have so much love for you. You're very important to me. And I pay a lot of attention to you, not in like a weird way, but like when I walk in, to a place and you're there, like, I study the people around me, especially those that I look up to and those that I think are doing great things. I've seen you in a lot of different seasons. I've seen you, I got to get the picture too of Timmy and your boy.
Oh yeah.
Because I want to put that up if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
I'll have Luke put it in the show.
Yeah.
Another one I want to put up is that picture of us. In the chalkboard wall said, what's your because?
Way back.
From when we met, like in that stage, you're in the building phase, we were both kind of in that same line of like, how do we do this thing here?
You're reading books like left and right.
Yeah. What is business like in Dawsonville, Georgia? How do we, get this thing off the ground, whatever. So we were kind of a sounding board for each other. And then that moved into because really blowing up. And then you have Myth and Legend come along. What year did the first Myth and Legend get put in?
It was 23.
23.
August of 23.
Yeah, so then it's, more coffee shops coming in. So I've seen you in a lot of different phases. Some slower, some more hectic. You talk about scatterbrained. Like, I remember going to Alma Coffee with you and like, you had 30 different things going that day. We're going to get coffee and then we go back here and talk to this guy and do that. That's a lot of your life. You are a lot of different places. Here recently with the build out of the space that Because Coffee has, late nights, being here, seeing you doing all kind of stuff. And one thing I've noticed is you've always kept the joy, or at least seem to. I know sometimes internally you may not feel it, but you're always present for people, no matter the situation. Even like before, in the middle of the break, people are coming up and you're right there with them, dude. Like they wouldn't know that you're recording a podcast right now because you're just on a break and, we're talking about a bunch of, complex stuff, but you meet people right where they are. So I guess my question is, how would you encourage somebody, really anybody, to be able to be present with people, have joy in what they're doing in the middle of the hardest things? So like there's so much burnout in our culture. We work way too much. We don't do the right things. We don't sleep right. We don't eat right. We all get burnout. We're always just, we're floored, man. This country, we produce, we build, that's all we do. Living here, there's only so much of that you can avoid. You're always going to be wrapped up, in a lot of stuff, constantly, hectic situations, business growth, things, going wrong, going right, whole lot going on with everything that you have going on. When you're in those periods when it's really tough and it's burnout, how do you keep that perspective of like, how do you keep coming back to, what, I've got the joy that is the Lord's, and at the end of the day, that's all that matters, and I'm going to be present and be a resource to the people no matter how busy I am. How do you do that?
I think it comes back, I would say it does, it comes back to a simple answer. It's harder to live, but it's simple. Jesus, he said, when the leaders asked him what the greatest commandment is, he said, here, listen up, guys. The greatest commandment is love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and strength. And the second is just like it. Everything hangs on it. The law and the prophet all hangs on it. Love God, and then love your neighbor like yourself. And I want people to take time for me. I do. I don't want to manipulate or monopolize. That's not a good word. You can edit that one out.
No, monopolize is staying in.
So
that happens when you get cold. You monopolize.
Oh man. So I don't want to monopolize people's time, but I appreciate when people pay attention. I do. Like, just say hey. They care. They know. They remember my name. It means a lot when customers remember my name. It just does. And it's really hard to have your perspective out of whack when you're trying to stay focused on the one who made the perspective, I guess.
Right.
The one who inhabits in eternity. It has a completely different perspective than I do. I'm a finite being. I'm in time. The one who inhabits everything outside of space and time. If I'm trying to focus on him and get to know him, know my maker, my perspective is going to be a lot better off. And I can't love man properly if I don't love God, and I can't love God properly if I don't love his creation. So that's it. And I'm not perfect with it. I go through ups and downs with it. Like you said, being busy, and I'm just like, nah, God, forgive me about this. This time of the year, I talked about the different pauses that Mary and Joseph took, and they would ponder, or they would consider, or they'd put something away in their hearts, and the news that they received from God about, having the Son of God. And, even after the birth, Mary took all those things and treasured them in her hearts and pondered them, and taking the time to just think and ponder about them. And if you're, it might be first thing in the morning, you might be one of those people who take 2 hours in the morning, or you might take 2 minutes in the morning. Whatever. Take time throughout the day, in the morning and throughout the day, to just be like, all right, Lord, God, thank you. So, and that's going to cascade into the rest of your life. But I didn't make any of this stuff. So if I just give that up to the maker, okay, and being open-handed with it all, that's a that's been a big thing that I think that helps me is knowing that if I just keep my hands open to receive, I'll receive from God, but I'll also be able to give. And the moment I close my hands on something, then the only thing I can do is fight. Like, that's all I'm gonna do. I'm
You
just
shared
ready.
this with me before.
Yeah, and that's why it comes right out. So like that's there a lot. That mindset of love God, love your neighbor, and just be open-handed about it all. So I would say that's how I'm not always thinking about God. I'm not always thinking about loving people. Sometimes they make me mad. So I stopped playing church league basketball.
Yeah.
I walked off the court. I had a walk off and never been back. But I don't always. Sometimes I do hold on to things too tightly, and you hold on to it and you crush the life out of it. You realize, I didn't want to do that. But when I am grateful to God, try to honestly love God, and then honestly try to love people, and do that with open hands. That helps give me that perspective. So that's this, I guess a simpler, easier said than done
Of course.
type of perspective. But yeah.
Man, so how would you encourage somebody to even start? Someone who, or like, I get what you're saying. I know what you mean. Or I hear what you mean. All I've ever known is just, it's up to me. How do you tell that person
Start being grateful.
Start
being grateful. A thankful person is a thankful person. I had a pastor tell me that one time. Simple little line there. But if you think about it, so many people in this world have it so far worse than I do. And I'm honestly, I'm acutely aware of that throughout the day. As I drink a nice cup of coffee, as I sit in a beautiful room, as I talk to friends, I have friends. There's so many people who, as I drive down the road and get mad about the traffic, I also think about the fact that I've got heated seats. Like, what in the world am I getting mad about? And I do. I wonder, say, okay, God, I've got it really good right now, and we may not have it this good in 5 or 10 years. We might be half nuked. Like, you just don't know. I'm not even saying that. We'll get into conspiracy theories another time, but not right now. Not even thinking about, it might all change, and that's okay. Like, I'm open-handed about it. Like, it really is okay. I don't own any of this stuff. I'm just trusted with it for right now, in this moment, this time, this place. I'm trusted with it. But if I can be grateful for it, and like if my catchphrase is thank you, like I'm probably, if I can be thankful to God for what I've been given, and if you're like I don't know about the whole God thing, okay, fine, just start with a heart of gratitude. Can you be thankful? Like, people are gonna have a hard time being mad at you if you're a thankful person. Really are.
Right.
And eventually, I guarantee at some point, if you got a heart of gratitude, you're gonna start trying to figure out, like, where do I direct that gratitude? Where does all this stuff come from in my life? Just start with being grateful, and a lot of things will help get you to where you need to go.
That's awesome.
So,
well, thank you for that, man.
Yeah.
Thank you for the time, for coming on the show.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, I think a lot of people are gonna really take what you had to say and apply that, or that's the hope. So.
Yeah.
You've been, huge mentor to me throughout, just learning how to do what I do. And, man, I'm just very thankful for who you are.
Thank you,
So,
man.
thanks,
Appreciate
man.
that. It was a lot of fun. Yes, some good questions. I look forward to seeing all your podcast episodes, man. You're connected to some good people. I'm excited to kind of, learn more about some of those folks. I'm sure I'll know some of them, but I'm excited to learn about some new people.
Awesome, man. Well, where can people find out more about what you're doing here? Where would you direct people to go?
The website's because.coffee. You can go there. They can go to the socials, Because Coffee, or at Because Coffee Co. Or at Because, what is it? I think it's at
We'll link it. We'll link it, whatever
you'll
it
do
is.
that. So it's Because Coffee on Instagram, Facebook, the website. You can shoot, man. Everybody here in the area has my phone number. I don't care. Give them my phone number, 219-689-0952. Shoot me a text. So
Let's go.
yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks so much, Doug.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it, man.